Well, you referred to it earlier when we were talking about some famous fights. This comic is unquestionably the John Romita Jr. show. I outside of just heaping praise on it, I don't. What do you want to say about JR here, Dan? I feel like you got something corked up and ready to go.
I mean, I just don't think there's anyone that can match his sequential storytelling, in an action sequence or just in general. But like, I mean, as much as I love so many of the other fights, most of them drawn by him, like, I just think this is a master showcase in how you do sequential storytelling on the page. In like an action sequence, it is, I think a lot of like artists would go for the sort of like pin up action moments of like, here's a beautiful page of someone jumping at someone or leaping at someone. And, Romita was on our show and said like his style, he calls it deadline style. And, like maybe there are more beautiful artists out there, but no one like sequences a book like this, the sizing of the panels, the timing that is given to them, the focus on like geographic space and how clear he makes that. I mean, it's the little things like there's like like with both of them rolling to opposite sides of the tracks, and then that wide image of them standing on opposite sides of the subway as they choose to re-engage with each other. It's so wonderfully paced. This is like the comics medium, like being showcased, like at its best. I think is how you pace something on a page. Like I will never hold up John Romita Jr. as the most beautiful like line artist, but I will say like I think he is the best sequential storyteller that I've read in comics. Maybe it's just Amazing Spider-Man, but like I would be pressed to say comics in general, no one is laying it out, and to see it applied to a full, issue of a fight sequence is like dazzling, and so much of it is utilizing what comics does best, and alongside his team, like Menez using colors to emphasize things and bringing in blurred speed, the yellows of those repeated punches on Tombstone's stomach. There's just so much going on here. I mean, even Joe Caramagna, is bringing in like all the best lettering work that he can do to like punctuate all of this. I appreciated, and we'll talk about it later in the backup, there was like a panel of the week in the kind of like bullpen bulletins in this that showed like Spider-Man and Tombstone like twirling around on the ground, and like that is an amazing Spider-Man like staple, the sort of like shadow characters of showing movement, but like utilized here. You could pick out all of the innovations of the history of Amazing Spider-Man showing up, in this book, and I was so appreciative of it. It reads quickly, but within those pages, it reads quickly because the flow is just excellent.
Yeah, I agree with what you are saying there. Yeah. I would just add, John Romita Jr. is a one of one. I think we could safely say that at this point, in terms of a creator in this industry. I do like, this is going to sound a little weird, but I want to credit Zeb Wells for the fact that like, hey, look, like this is Zeb Wells' final arc on after several years writing this book. This is his penultimate issue, and he has essentially ceded this comic to his artists, and has let John Romita Jr. just absolutely cook with it.
I'm working on an issue of Spider-Man, and it's one of the most fun issues I've had in a long time. And it's for one reason. The writer and the editor let me choreograph the majority of this issue because it's a fight issue.
What does that mean when you choreograph?
Well, I get a chance to do the fight scenes and the action scenes the way I want to, instead of what the writer and the editor had in their minds. They just gave me a blank slate, and it's a blast.
Which I don't want to say is surprising, but like, I don't know if I've ever necessarily seen that before in Amazing Spider-Man, where the writer kind of cedes this much ground to the artists for the storytelling, and yet still manages to have a very impactful, memorable story be told out of it. I mean, I've seen even some of the staunchest critics of this run be like, "Hey, this arc's pretty good." Maybe my Twitter feed is corrupted right now.
No,
but,
I'm seeing the same. I'm seeing the same thing too. And again, it gets back to that sort of like peaks and valleys of this run, which is like, I think if this run was just the JRJR and Zeb Wells issues, it would be a fairly championed run. Except he did draw the final issue 26. But
right.
It is so weird to see that. I mean, Zeb is like has said that he, balances it, to the strengths of the artists and stuff. But I just so vastly appreciate how he works with JRJR over everybody else. It's not even, comparable. So yeah.
And like I'm not saying like Zeb took this issue off, but like he didn't. But like like I said, he ceded the creative ground to JRJR in a way I don't feel we've gotten with any other creative pairing over certainly over the duration of this podcast. So we're talking about 11 years worth of comics here. Like, and that's not necessarily like a slam at like Dan Slott or Nick Spencer or anyone like that, but like you just don't see this as much anymore. You know, like it's always a collaborative affair, or it always feels like the writer is the dominant force in comics right now. I feel like that's kind of where we're at right now. But like this was very different, and like I appreciated that, so I just wanted to make note of that.
I'd love to read the script for this issue. Because I'd be curious to know how much of it there is. Like I could see him saying, "Romita, go nuts, do the final sequence of the Matrix."
Sure.
But with our characters, but like I could also see him because it is tight. Like the page turns are tight. It has a lot of the things that I've appreciated about the Zeb Wells run through and through. So I could also see him choreographing it, down to the moment. But whatever it is, it's a great kismet of combinations of talent.
Yeah, I feel it's too structured for it to be that free form. Like you said, like there is a tightness to how the pages flow into each other, and like each beat, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do again, I still feel like JRJR just was able to cook. It's a credit to both of them. You know what I mean? Like I think like Zeb was able to probably create something that was both tight but with plenty of latitude for Romita, and Romita is such a master at his craft. He could still tell a tight, visually dominant story, and keep it flowing in a way that makes sense. Like this is called good comic book making. It's the bottom line. Like huzzah!
Tip of the hat to everyone involved, an art team and writing team, firing on all cylinders. Like bravo. I would say a fairly dazzling penultimate issue of a run.
Yep.